I'm speaking to you as a rational adult, and I want to answer a question that you haven't asked, but you want to ask. And it has to do with simply this very, very simple question. How do I know? How do I know? Me, Lionel, former prosecutor, licensed trial lawyer, been in this for a long, long time. 43 years a lawyer. I know what I'm talking about. How do I know that Tyler Robinson will be found not guilty, will be acquitted? How do I know this? Or how do I know he's not guilty? Wait a minute, is that the same? Could he be guilty, but you just can't prove him guilty? And will we ever find out who really killed Charlie if it's not Tyler? And the reason why I ask this, reason why I ask on your behalf, is that these are the questions you want to ask. And I'll ask for you because you're confused by this. There's so many names in TPUSA and Blake Neffick. Who the hell are these people? What is going on here? Debates and Erica and what's happening here? So I'm going to explain this. This is the best tutorial. Pass this on. Send this to friends. It's really simple. I've got no skin in the game. I've got no dog in the fight. And I can't think of any other metaphor or phrase to use. I'm telling you the truth. I couldn't care less if Tyler Robinson is guilty or not guilty. In terms of the actual thing, I want to find out who actually killed Charlie Kirk. I don't think we're going to get that. I don't think we're going to find that out. We're going to get a lot of suspects, but ultimately the smoking gun. In fact, there is no smoking gun. In fact, there's no gun that's smoking. We'll get to that in a moment. But this is going to be the best tutorial for you, the best explanation, because you're very, very confused. And a lot of very good people, like Candace Owens and others, have gone through great pains to try to show you all of the evidence that's out there. But it's confusing because you're working. You've got a job. You've got kids. You need somebody to say, can you give me just a kind of a summary? Bring me up to speed. Give me a kind of a quick overview. That's exactly what this is. After this important message from our sponsor. Well, midterm elections are coming. Control of Congress is on the line. And if there's one thing financial markets hate, it's uncertainty. Between now and Election Day, we could see serious volatility in the markets and the economy. And you owe it to yourself and your family to have a plan. And that's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. Listen to me. For more than a decade, Noble Gold Investments has helped Americans like you diversify with physical gold and silver. They make the process absolutely simple, straightforward, and secure. And for America's 250th, Noble Gold is celebrating by sending you a free 10-ounce U.S. independent silver bar when you open a new qualified account. Just mention Lionel. That's Lionel. Call 877-646-5347. That's 877-646-5347, or visit the special Noble Gold Investments Lionel link below. Election Day is coming. Don't let it arrive without a plan. And remember, there's always a risk of investment, and there's no guarantee of any kind. Tyler Robinson will be found not guilty. He will be acquitted. He will be acquitted when and if this ever goes to trial. And why do I say if this goes to trial? Because there's a very cautious part of me that says a lot of things can happen to him, to his life, to a lot of things. I don't want that to be true, but it could very well be true. It could very well be true. Now, let's start off with this. Reason number one, and after this, it's all kind of a waste of time. But the reason that he will be found not guilty, the reason why he must be acquitted, the reason is that there is no link between any gun or anything found regarding him and whatever was recovered from Charlie's neck, body, whatever. The Mauser 98, this referenced rifle you keep hearing about, the rifle that he used a screwdriver or should have used an Allen wrench. It gets very complicated, but the one that he broke down and had down his pants and borrowed from Grandpappy and wanted his gay, trans, furry friend to find, that rifle, the Mauser 98, the 30-06, the 30-06 that everybody says could take off the head of a wildebeest, that rifle is not connected at all to the murder, is not connected to anything found in Charlie. Anything. Let me say this again, and forgive me. I'm not trying to question your intelligence. I just want to remind you, because sometimes you're saying, what? The rifle. This is a lint brush. It's my lint brush. It has not been linked in any way to the murder of Charlie Kirk. And neither has the rifle. So how did he kill Charlie? It's called not guilty. You've got a rifle that everybody, maybe not in court, remember that was a preliminary hearing. And just to remind you, that preliminary hearing was just to determine if they had probable cause to go forward. Why the prosecutors did not impanel a grand jury before that establishes probable cause. Why that didn't happen? Why? Because that would have eliminated all of this. An indictment would have been returned, a true bill, as they say. He would have been charged. We would have had an arraignment. We'd be on our way. We haven't even had, at this point, let me say this, we have not even had, at this point, an arraignment. He hasn't even been charged yet. This is even weirder. He's in jail, being held prior to that. But because no probable cause had actually been determined, there were affidavits for arrest, and there was a preliminary stuff just to get you arrested. But because, for reasons I will never understand, they forced, or had to force, by virtue of the fact that they never secured a grand jury, they were forced, the prosecution, to have this hearing. That's all. They found probable cause, which we could have told you from the beginning. And the reason why you want to do this normally is so that the defense can get all the discovery it needs free of charge, to just sit there and say, bring it on. But they didn't. It was a waste of time. It was one of the worst. Now, I'm not suggesting that the defense is in on it. I don't know. I've never met these people. I'm going to go with the presumption that they are not. But from what I have seen, I have not seen a more lackluster, uninspiring, kind of a polite defense as these folks. I would be all over the place. I would have been everywhere. I would have had investigators talk to Candace, Baron Coleman, anybody else for that matter. I would have had them come out of the woodwork, and I would not be violating my court order, my gag order. I wouldn't be out there saying, and here's what I think, but you bet, if you have information leading to, call 800, call tips at CandaceOwens.line, whatever, .com. Candace would not be a co-counsel. She's not a lawyer. She would just be a citizen wanting to help. Remember that show, was it Making a Murderer, Stephen Avery, whatever? Same thing as that. Crowdsourcing. I don't understand that. Every single day, Candace and her coterie of incredible deep divers will say, here's another thing, here's another picture, here's something else, here's somebody else, here's the last 3 roommates that Tyler had. I mean, where they get this, I have no idea. And I would be on the phone immediately to say, Candace, Barron, is there anything, and Barron's a lawyer, Barron Coleman, is there anything we should know about this? As a matter of fact, yes. Here's something we never even mentioned, but this may or may not be of interest to you. Wow, where did you get this? Well, I got this from here. It would be criminally negligent not to use every resource available, every witness that was available, everybody who knows anything about the case. Okay, let's stop. Put that over there. I had to say that. Let's go back to Tyrone, to this particular case. Tyler has a jury, and the jury is going to go out, and the jury is going to be told as follows. The jury is going to be told, you are to find that the defendant, Tyler Robinson, committed aggravated murder beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. Great. They'll go back into the jury room. Let's assume it's right now, because there's not going to be any more evidence. That's it. They've got the rifle, they got the gun, they got all this stuff. Anyway, go back in there and begin deliberating. And they sit down and they say, okay, maybe there's a 4-person, it's come a foreman. Now it's a 4-person, maybe could be in New York, they pick the first juror as the foreman, but maybe they elect or whoever. Okay, let's take a vote. How many people believe, this is the 12 jurors, how many people believe that, and this is, of course, is after they've impaneled the jury, after the trial's been going on, after it starts. Anyway, how many believe he's guilty? And somebody's going to have to say, well, how do we know he did it? How do we know he did what? How do we know he killed Charlie? How do we know Tyler did it? Forget beyond a reasonable doubt. How do we know he did it? Well, he said he did it. Said he did it with what? How? Didn't really specify. He just talked a lot about the rifle. He mentioned something about the rifle. Go get the rifle. But the rifle was ruled inconclusive in terms of the connection. How are we supposed to find him guilty of using a rifle that was inconclusive? Well, his DNA was on it. His DNA was on the rifle. And 5 other people whose DNA was on the rifle, including Tyler, Lance, his roommate. In fact, Tyler's DNA was the most degraded. That's pretty weird, isn't it? Yeah, it is weird. It's strange, isn't it? It is strange. So let's go back. All in favor of finding him guilty. Excuse me. How? What? Well, there was a rifle that was found, but it was ruled inconclusive. Yeah, but doesn't mean he didn't use it. But we have to prove he did do it, or the prosecutor should prove he did do it. We're supposed to find him guilty because, well, it could be. That's beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't think so. Let's assume the following. And I want you to mention this to all your friends who insist upon Tyler's guilt. Let's assume, instead of this Mauser 98, which eventually was found, by the way, it was said initially that we haven't heard as of late that a bunch of gun-sniffing dogs were out looking for the rifle. And they were unable to identify it. And these dogs can smell a fish fart. So how are they supposed to involve themselves in the identification of whatever? How did they miss this rifle? How? Unless the rifle was never fired. Unless, if it's true, they found dust inside the barrel, not dust in the wind, the Kansas song. No. So wait a minute, what? Wait a minute. We don't even know if the rifle was fired? Yeah, forget the fact whether it was conclusive or not, or the bullets, because we normally can't. We normally would take a round that was fired from this rifle, check the ballistics, the lands and grooves and everything. We don't even have that. We're not even sure if this thing was ever even fired. Did they check Tyler for any kind of GSR gunshot residue? I don't think so. Did he check his cheek and his, like, where you would normally fire, the here and? So again, excuse me. And here's the question, which I promised. What if they found a bazooka? What if they found a bazooka? Same thing. They go, hey, over here. What is it? There's a bazooka. A bazooka, yeah. It's got Tyler's DNA on it. And Lance's as well. And 4 other people. Okay. But there's no evidence that a bazooka was used. Oh, also found a flintlock and a musket and an RPG and a BAR, Browning automatic rifle. Wait. We have no reason. And by the way, those were also not fired. I'm not trying to overly complicate it. But because you find something at the scene that may or may not have his DNA on it, fingerprints, whatever it is, if it can't be connected to the murder, so what? How do you find him guilty and say, well, we find him guilty? How? Of murder. How did he do it? He used something. What do you mean something? Well, what's the theory of the prosecution? He used what? How did he do it? Just like if you walked into a police station and said, hello, I'm Tyler Robinson, and I killed Charlie Kirk, which, by the way, he didn't do. Because remember, when he turned himself into the authorities, it wasn't to admit. It was just to get himself off the street because they were going to probably whack him. So they said, okay, I killed him. Arrest me, take me in. They wouldn't have even arrested him on that. How did you kill him? I want to say a rifle. You want to say, you don't remember what you used? Well, you're going to find it's inconclusive. What's inconclusive? The rifle. The rifle that you used, you can't connect to again, make it a bazooka. Make it an RPG, shoulder mounted. What does this mean? What does this mean? I don't know. This is not guilty. You can't find him guilty because he used some form of something. He got something in his neck. Don't know what it is. Might have been some fragments. Can't tell. Now, I'm not bringing up anything you've invariably have heard. Candace's hypotheses regarding other means of such, including an exploding microphone, etc., etc. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about it. Before we get to anything, Tyler is going to be, they're asking a jury to find him guilty, and you don't know how he did it. Was it telepathy? Was this some kind of a weird death ray? Maybe he just thought. Did anybody see him shoot? Well, I don't want to jump the gun, but according to a lot of people, these influencers like Jack Probiotic, remember that guy? He always looks like his goldfish died. He always looks so sad. He says, I saw it. It was the most incredible thing in the world. It made me look at the clock and realize I wish the time were different. No, don't make it 12:23. He went on and on. What did you see? Oh, yes, I saw it. It was so clear. I mean, you could almost read the time on his watch before he changed his clothes 5 or 6 times, which goes to another story. I don't want to complicate the idea. But he saw this. I don't think he saw it. Because the first thing in the world that the prosecution wants is to show everybody we got him. So you just put down all your crowdsourcing and leave it to the big boys. There is no reason, none, why the prosecution does not want to let everybody know, oh, we've got him. And I don't mean bringing in Don Jr. or Erica or Jack Probiotic or whoever these people were who swear they saw videos which other people who were there say they didn't see. Let me go back again. Forget everything else. Video cameras. Was he 5 feet 10 or 6 feet tall? Did he write on Discord? Did he write what? Let's assume a lunatic, completely fantastic, a fabulous, a mythomaniac, compulsive liar, says, I'm sorry, I killed him. I was it. What is this? There's a letter. What does this letter say? He said he killed Charlie Kirk. Who? So-and-so. He always says stuff like that. No, he did it. Why? Because he wrote it down. Because he told his parents. And why? My God, I got this thing in my eye. And why did he do this? Because he's so fixated on killing Charlie. He is? Yeah. He never told Luna about it. Lance. Well, yeah, but he wanted to say. Never talked about it. They never talked about it. So, assuming somebody were to be just like Tyler, walked into a police station, said, I did it. I wrote all this stuff. Okay, how'd you do it? Oh, that again. Oh, I don't know. Something. Did you use a gun? Well, yeah, sort of, maybe, I guess. I don't know. And by the way, not to complicate matters, but there's a good reason to believe that his family's going to say he never said he did. So let's go back to what I said initially. What are we talking about? Remember, we don't have to prove anything. Tyler doesn't have to prove anything. Nobody does. The prosecution has to prove it. And you have a series of checklists on the jury instructions. That the defendant, Tyler Robinson, knowingly, intentionally, willfully, bring about the death of great bodily harm, or death, rather, great bodily harm. That's a lot of bodily harm. Death, malice aforethought, intentionally kill. How? They don't say like, there's actually five, but the four modalities of death. Think of the acronym NASH, N-A-S-H, natural, accidental, suicide, or homicide. Okay? And they represent, there's actually unexplained, which is NASHU, which completely ruins the whole thing. But this is a homicide, definitely a homicide. How? Gunshot, stabbing, poison, strangulation, asphyxiation, stabbing. You just don't say something. Just pick whatever you want. Death ray, telepathy, evil wishes, gave him a dirty look. You can stop everything right now. You can stop everything right now. You can stop everything. Now, you might be saying, why did they even charge Charlie? It's a great idea. Because they told Charlie, if you don't turn yourself in. And isn't it odd that he turns himself in and never says, oh, by the way, I'm not saying I did it. What? Imagine being the booking agent, theoretically. What's your name? Tyler Robinson? Tyler Robinson? You're turning yourself in? Yes? For the murder of what? For the murder of Tyler Robinson? Oh, this is good. This is my first. Well, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say, wait a minute. I'm not admitting I did it. I'm just turning myself in. Wait. You're turning yourself in. Okay. Well, sometimes that's acceptable. A lot of times. Sometimes people will turn themselves in order to get a good deal to be bonded out. They'll say, look, I'm not saying I did it, but I just turning myself in. But in this case, he's turning himself in not because of any other reason than, okay, look, there's an active warrant. No, he's basically, they were telling him, if you know what's good for you, turn yourself in. You're probably safer in a jail, which is strange. Because can you believe this? Because, see, a lot of folks are thinking that maybe, just maybe, they should have butlered his ass earlier, that he wasn't supposed to be around, that something went wrong, some glitch, some interruption, some derailing of plans, because Tyler should have been, but he wasn't. In fact, you can see there were like two versions of, not confessions, obviously, but more of statements. One was, I'm not going to spend the rest of my life in prison, which is like, don't take me alive, Steely Dan, The other one was, well, better that I turn myself in or something. But there were two completely conflicting tones. So a lot of folks are saying, oh, he should have been whacked before by somebody. They should have Epsteined him. They should have butlered him like they got that guy. But no, he slipped through after driving how many hours and going to Dairy Queen and this steakhouse. And I mean, just the story later on is so convoluted, but we're not even worried about that. I'm telling you right now, even the cause of death, we haven't even, and that's another thing, I haven't seen, you haven't seen, we haven't seen any kind of results from pathology and medical examiners and autopsies. Haven't even charged him yet. He hasn't even entered a plea. He's going to enter a plea of not guilty, and then the thing starts going, and you make a demand for discovery and all this. But up till now, this is just kind of, maybe out of courtesy. This is the most convoluted case. And to make it even more complicated, and I'm just going to throw this one out. If I had advised whoever the assassins were, because it sure as hell's not this guy, because we've been through this a million times. We've been through this, and there's so much, and I don't want to overly complicate it. I really don't, because there's so much other evidence which will ultimately eliminate the possibility of a shot even coming from the front. But there's another story. But remember, at first, there's no connection to the rifle. It's not guilty. But what's so interesting is this, is if I had advised whoever the assassins were, and let me also say something very, very clearly, okay, lest you get the wrong impression. There is a belief that, and this is very interesting, there is a belief that sometimes, or it has been said that Candace Owens or others have either accused Erica Kirk directly or TPUSA or whatever of directly being involved in the assassination. I have not heard that. I have not heard that because she has not said that. Now, there have been a lot of problems, a lot of things that they brought up would show anomalies and weird behaviors that accompany this, that make you wonder, why are they doing this? This is odd. This is strange. This is weird. Why didn't they call 911 at the time? We've been through this. But that's not to say they had anything to do with it, just because they reacted differently. That doesn't mean it can't be true. That doesn't mean they can't be accessories after the fact. But the point is, nobody's saying that because they're being so cryptic with this. As they present the initial evidence to you, they're not really telling you how all of this occurred. So, just remind you, so to bring it all back into perspective, all of it back into perspective, I'm telling you right now, there is absolutely, positively, 100% no way that a jury can find him guilty. If you went to court right now, and whatever the evidence they have now, they're going to have later on. They're not going to pull something out and say, surprise. Because remember, the prosecution wants everybody to know this is open and shut. They want this to be a plea. They want this to be disposed of. They don't want to hide stuff to spring it on them at trial. They want everybody to say, come on, Tyler, what are you doing? Come on, man. Come on. You want to make Candace Owens go away? Show some evidence now. Show something that really connects him. I mean, really does. This is something where the more you look at it, the worse it gets. But if this is the thing that I talked about, this Mauser 98, granddaddy's shooting iron that I brought with me, wrapped in a towel or whatever it is, and it is or any connection between this. And again, we're still wondering, was it fired? Was it dust? I don't know. Anyway, because we don't know anything yet. But they're saying inconclusive. Had there been any indication whatsoever that they were one and the same, that the fragments found, the bullets, whatever. And by the by, to make it even more complicated, people are wondering, did they give him an autopsy? Was he cremated? Is he here? Where is his body? We'll get to that later. You don't know how complicated this case is. For those people who love whodunits, this is the best. Every year they have these things where they have these radio awards, and they'll say podcasting. And sure enough, the true crime, or they have Crime Con, and people theoretically in this country are so in love with crime that they come out of the woodwork to be a part of it. But you never know it with this case. You never know it. And the reason why is very simply this: because of the fact that they don't have anything. They don't have anything. And yet, the focus, at least online, the focus, at least on X and YouTube, has been that doggone, dastardly, underhanded Candace. What does she want? Taking advantage of this, exploiting the murder of her friend, like TPUSA did. What, the day or so afterwards, where they made, what, $40-50 million on merch? To which Erica was extremely exuberant about. What, 6 days after the fact? Everybody's made money. We make money on things. We're scavengers. We make money on detritus, on rotting, putrescent corpses and bodies and road pizza. That's what we do. We're vultures. We're hyenas. We do this. That's what news does. News does nothing but just basically siphon off and suck the life off of tragedy. It's what everybody does, period. People are elected to office because of tragedy. People want to stay in office because of tragedy. We got to stop that crime. This is the Hegelian dialectic. So don't give me this business about how dare Candace, do as part of the grift, a word which is so overused. So overused. It's not a grift. This is the way it works. The idea that somehow people can't take advantage. It's the crime of really the century. I mean, it is really that good. OJ wasn't a mystery. The other cases really aren't mysteries. I mean, JFK to an extent, but remember, as soon as the suspect is eliminated, the case goes away. And that's why it is very, very critical that Tyler immediately be removed and put it at some kind of facility, maybe even a federal facility. Though I'm not so sure about that Cash Patel. Notice how Cash swooped in. He had his eye on it, huh? Yeah, he did. And then forgot about it. Remember that? Just one day, say, well, what are you doing here? How about these people, the Zen, all these people who were screaming and yelling, I did it. I don't want to complicate it. But if you have lived as much of this as I have and we have, this is our really our 11th month. It's beyond anything you've ever seen. It is that complicated. But I want to end where I started off. He will be found not guilty because you're unable to prove how he even did it. What did he do? Forget confessions. Confessions with how. How? If I find out, if I say, there's God forbid, a nursing student who was found dead in the woods, and I go in and I confess to it. That's not enough to do it. Why? Because there's no evidence that I have. Yeah, but I was there. I told people I did it. Yeah, but you could be crazy. Did you know that during the trial of maybe the millennium, was the Limburg case, when Richard Hauptmann was tried and ultimately condemned, but there were I don't know the number, hundreds. And don't forget the lead detective at that one, the lead investigator was Norman Schwarzkopf's father. He was with the New Jersey State Police. But they had more people admitting and confessing to having been involved in this than anything you can imagine. More people. So just because people admit to it doesn't mean anything. I know that may sound strange to you, but it's true. Okay? Does this make sense? Put your comments below. What do you think about this? What do you think about this? Think about what I'm telling you. Think about it. Very, 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 very critical. Think about this. How are you going to prove him guilty? You don't even know how he did it. Now, he can end this by pleading guilty and all is for naught. Or, and then the case is interrupted indefinitely. But I don't think he's going to be admitting to this. I don't think so. The jury's going to say we can't find him guilty because we don't know how he did it. We don't know anything. There's no evidence. And by the way, when it comes to confessions, you're going to find out most probably that the parents did not hear him say this, that he did not confess to them, and that this weird Discord account, that Tyler had access to it as well. And according to Barron, very interesting fact, about an hour or some particular time period after he was Mirandized, after he turned himself in, that's when the Discord messages appeared. Mind you, the person who said, I don't want to talk to anybody, I don't want to tell anybody, don't say anything, but he's admitting it to everybody in the world and texting. I mean, this case makes no sense. It's as though they sloppily slapped this together. What I was trying to say, but I forgot to mention, if I ran this assassination, what I would do is I'd say, forget the patsy. Just do it however you, whatever killed him, and just move on and say, we don't know. And that's it. I think sometimes they get into this idea where they have to do the old patsy routine because they're just used to it. I don't know why. Maybe they figure, well, we have to have one, right? We have to have, Sirhan and Lee Harvey Oswald and others. Sometimes there really are people who are involved, like in the case of Mark David Chapman and Sirhan, by the way. But if those aren't MK Ultras, I don't know what is. But I'm complicating this. No need to complicate it. He's not guilty. He will be found not guilty. He'll be acquitted because there's no connection to anything. He's just there. And you have to say, well, how did he do it? I don't know. He just did. Was he in the neighborhood? Yeah. Did you prove he was there? Yeah. You sure about that? Because if you start saying, no, that's him. Who? Don't get me started with that one either. How many pictures? How many of these 4K pictures? How many times did he change his clothes? How many people wearing maroon shirts? Don't get me started. Bottom line is, whether he did it or not, no matter who was responsible, whether this was Israel or whether this was the United States or CIA or whatever it was, or Mossad, it doesn't matter. They're going to find him not guilty because of the fact that they can't tell you even how he was killed. Or what Tyler had to do with his gun. Was it the gun? Why do you keep talking about it? You brought up the Mauser 98. We didn't. It's even in these supposed notes. I got to get that gun. I got to get my gun. I got that gun. Well, that gun that you supposedly used isn't even connected. So, where's the proof? They can't do it. He's going to be found not guilty. What do you think? I've got questions below. I've got some questions for you. Please weigh in. Do me also a big favor. Please like this video. Subscribe to our channel. And make sure you hit that little bell so you're notified of live streams and new videos. And until then, my friends, remember, as we always say, the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue ya. Da-da.